Hey guys, hope you're doing well. We're going to do the Inoue versus Cardenas fight the other day. I hope I'm saying that right. Probably butchered it, but it doesn't matter. Inoue, one of my favorite boxers, boxing today. And, well, he kind of saved the weekend if you watched or stayed up even for any of the fights that happened over the Friday and Saturday. So we're going to break down his 4 decisions. I've picked round 3. So this is the round right after being dropped in round 2 at the end. So we're going to see how he recovers and tries to reestablish his rhythm and presence in the ring, okay? Okay, let's go. So the first thing I'm going to see him do is an explosive touch jab inside to the gloves, and then he sort of frames it there for a half second. He sees Cardenas move forwards. He's going to jab him as he closes the distance and then move back with his feet. And then what's going to happen is he's going to set his feet a little bit more, and then he's just going to use some different looks. It looks like he's really making an effort to set his feet here and not being pushed back by Cardenas, sorry. And then what's going to happen is he's going to move around to his left with the jab, but so does Cardenas himself, and they both trade these great jabs here. He uses this sort of in and out feint. He comes back with his high guard here. He then steps back for a little bit of distance, uses a couple of slip looks, and then boom, uses this sort of vertical jabs in between the gloves here before moving out to his left just a little bit so that he's not too far near the ropes. He's continuing to use tiny looks, high guard looks, little steps back, not creating too much distance too quickly. That's what he doesn't want to do, especially after getting knocked down, so that he continues to command a little bit of respect. Here he pulls away from this feint here from Cardenas, this level change. He then slips himself, gets low, and then boom, comes up with the jab. He then pauses it there for a half second. He stays in that sort of level change position and then is going to decide to go for a 3. 1, 2, 3 punch combination. Cardenas uses a nice little squeeze as he moves away, but the rhythm on this combination is really something to like. If I show you this in real time, this is what it looks like. 1, 1, 2, 3. Lovely and quick. As Cardenas backs away and resets to his right, Inoue is now going to shuffle forward and use his high guard look for just a little bit of defensive awareness. He again uses these tiny steps back in his looks backwards system. After using his looks backwards, he's going to use his lead hand a little bit and then move back after that. As you can see, he throws his lead hand quite a lot, and that's a big thing he does throughout the fight to make sure he keeps having his range, he keeps bothering the guard of his opponent, and it's what sets up a lot of his distance for his threes. Especially if someone feels it hard on the gloves, and if he can manage to land it, they're going to know to respect his power. So again, he moves back, uses a couple of slip looks, a high guard look here. He's then going to set his feet, look for a little bit of defense. He sees Cardenas move forward, he ducks under, and then just stays on the inside just for a little bit. Cardenas tries to use a frame to push his head to the side so that he can create a little bit of distance. But Inoue comes in behind his shoulder and then tries to create a little bit of space as Cardenas moves backwards and then try for a right hand, but it doesn't really land well. Referee's just checking if they've butted each other and then they continue their fight. After all these jabs, Inoue's now been setting up the rest of his attacks, okay? So he's going to step back here for a little bit of distance, use a slip look before coming in with a 1 and then coming around the side with a hook to the guard. Now, I can almost see this as a 3 because of the little slip feint here, okay? It's a slip feint, slip feint as a 1, 2, 3. It pushes Cardenas back, even if it lands to the gloves, and then Inoue capitalizes on the space a little bit by moving forwards, using a little bit more subtle looks before he sees the jab from Cardenas and he waits and looks for a parry, and then moves backwards just a little bit, readjusts his base. He sees the feint again, he pulls away from it, and then once he sees that Cardenas isn't going to engage, he comes straight back in with his own jab. It's a really lovely shot, his jab. It's 70% of his punches. They're again going to play this game where Cardenas is feinting the entry. You can see Inoue using his looks, pulling back once he sees the level change, using his high guard, and then he's going to lean forward again. He always uses this sort of slip feint just before he throws out his jab. I won't call it telegraphing because he doesn't do it at every single time. He does it when he chooses to, and just to sort of bait out a counter if needed and feint the entry. but he uses it high. This is what I mean by use a high jab. Look where he's throwing. He's throwing at the top of the gloves near the forehead area. That is much, much more commanding than aiming for a chin. All right, he goes back into his looks here, uses his slip looks, uses his high guard again. He sees Cardenas commit to a jab. He tries to parry at the same time and jab him on his way in, but they both trade. And after getting hit, he's going to make sure that his lead hand is still more consistent. He's going to stalk forwards and then again use this beautiful lead hand in the middle before feinting again and coming around the side with a hook. Another great three in my opinion. Cardenas moves out to the right, so Inoue uses a shuffle step and cuts him off to his left. He's now cutting off the ring, staying in front of him with his looks. Right now it's perfect left steps to cut off while using the high guards, the slip feints, the looks. You can see a little feint here, a little roll feint really, and then he closes the distance quite quickly before jabbing in and pushing Cardenas back into the ropes. He's still being super cautious here in a way, which is the correct thing to do. He doesn't want to rush his work at all, especially after getting dropped. So he's just using his looks backwards, his slips, his high guards, his feints. And what he's doing here, in my opinion, is he's looking for a little bit more defense. He wants to trust and have confidence in his defense. So he's just waiting for it, okay? So Cardenas here, it looks like he knows he's waiting for it. He feints here. He feints again the entry and then uses this great jab. If you see Inoue, he's waiting in his high guard. He leans over. He steps back. He steps back again thinking he's got out of range with this pull, but he just gets mistimed because of the double feint from Cardenas. The way Inoue retaliates from this is he's going to come back in with his beautiful feint low. It makes Cardenas completely shell up, and then he's going to go 1, 2, 3, all to the sort of arms and guard and whatever. You could consider that a 4 again with a feint beforehand. And then once he sees he's pushed back Cardenas to the ropes and he resets to his right, from this sort of straight up bounce, he's just going to pounce in and he's going to come in with a jab and pulls away and resets a little bit out to his right. Man, watching it in slow motion, you can see why he got dropped. That is a chopping left hook, man. That is really, really dangerous. Cardenas doing a good job here, actually. It might look like Cardenas is doing a sort of basic job of defending himself. This high guard from Cardenas is very, very deceptive because he really is quick off the trigger with his counter left hook. So if you sort of let your opponent think it's safe to unload, you get them to close the distance a little bit more recklessly, which is exactly how he caught Inoue in round 2. Inoue uses his looks backwards again, and he's now looking for a counter. As soon as he sees Cardenas move in, he's going to try feint and catch him with a left hook coming in. But Cardenas is doing a good job of feinting his entry, stepping back from the counter. Inoue's then going to do the correct thing and go back to his basics. He's going to cut him off just a little bit, use his high guard look, and then boom, snap in with this great jab here. You can see his eyes from Inoue, so reactive to any counter shots that might be coming back. He feels like it's a safe option to jab again, so boom, pistols in with another jab. And as you can see, the small feint from Cardenas would make Inoue do this great double step back just to create a little bit more distance, very safely, very economically. Here Inoue is going to keep changing his lead hand game. He feints high, comes low, and then jabs to the body. Lovely work. And once he sees Cardenas go into his looks forward system, he's going to happily oblige into his looks backwards, look for a counter with this high guard, and as soon as he sees the jab come in, he ducks low and tries to come back up with the 2. Aware of any counters, he then uses some great defense. He uses this frame from the lead hand as he shuffles back and doesn't reset out to his right. I find this interesting. He's really economical with his feet. If he doesn't need to create too much distance, he won't. So he doesn't choose to reset out to his right. He just does a small right step. And as you can see, the feint again just makes him do a proper back step. And then he just waits in this high guard look. He sees Cardenas move forward, so he's going to try to jab him as he goes to his left. From this low position, he sees the right hand coming over the top and just ducks away from this counter. Here he circles off a little bit to his left, and he's going to use some slip looks again. He's then going to have this strange look here where he touches his temples with his guard and then comes to his cheeks. I think he's looking to catch Cardenas with a jab as he comes in, but Cardenas with his hands to his temple manages to jab from a high position, but just times Inoue much better than Inoue times him. And then Inoue feels the power from that shot and then backs away and moves around to his left. He's back into this sort of cheekbone guard. He steps back from the feint, he raises his guard, and then ducks low before pulling away into a shuffle step. Really, really nice looking for defense there. And back in with a sort of in and out feint, but he uses a touch at the same time. Here he continues to look for defense after this touch. He steps back in and raises his guard, and he does get caught by this jab because he closed the distance for Cardenas himself. And then he's just going to wait in his high guard very patiently, duck, and pivot out to his left. Lovely, lovely work. He resets around, sort of backpedals a little bit, and then as he's back in the center, he's going to slow down his footwork and use a tiny little bit of steps back before again coming in with his lead hand. He uses this jab to circle off to his left, and creates a little bit of a better angle and gets around to the center a little bit more. And then is going to, again, patiently set his feet, use a slip look, and then the usual pattern from this would be to come in with a vertical jab. Again, circling off to his left, making sure he's now back in the center, and then firing off another vertical jab before stepping back from any possible counters. Here he's going to use his looks backwards, raise his guard, use this beautiful level change feint, which is going to make Cardenas just a little bit more hesitant, as you can see from his base. And then he's going to touch upstairs, and he's going to look for a little bit of defense here. Cardenas comes in with a 3, Inoue parries the first, blocks the second, and then moves away with a squeeze for the third. He then bounces back, comes back in around to his left, looks for a little bit more defense. But as you can see, Cardenas is throwing his jab from his temple, isn't he? And I think I've shown you this before. It is super hard to parry upwards. So as you can see from Inoue's hand position, he's not really ready to parry this jab. Okay, it's way too low, and he has to come up with his parry, which is just not good enough to defend a jab coming high from the temple. So he gets caught as he pulls away, he gets really sideways defensively on, and then Cardenas doesn't commit to anything else, so he moves backwards and creates a little bit more distance. He's then going to bounce backwards, come back in. You can see him sort of get ready as he sort of claps his gloves together, and then come back in with a jab. Now I will say this, I do worry that sometimes he telegraphs his attacks a little bit too much. He's obviously so quick and powerful to usually get away with it, but he does seem to have a lot of tells of when he's going to come back in for attacks. It's regular patterns. Now, I'm not saying that I'd fucking exploit them or anything. I don't want any fanboys in the comments saying, oh, well, you should do better against Inoue. I'm just saying there seems to be a lot of tells sometimes, especially when he really wants to retaliate. Anyway, he steps back in with this really powerful jab. He decides it's safe to throw again. He luckily times Cardenas with this, otherwise that left hook counter might have been dangerous. He uses some slip looks, steps back, uses his high guard just in case. Then from this high guard here, is going to throw through the gloves into this vertical jab. Use a couple of hand feints and looks as he moves backwards. Once he's near the ropes, he's going to try to use a jab to move around to his left. Beautiful jab again. And then he's sort of going to backpedal around. Since we're on the subject, another mistake that I sort of see is that Inoue throws barely any backwards jabs, okay? When he's using his looks backwards, he's always going to come forwards with a jab or around to his left. Does that make sense? He never ever uses a touch jab or a hard jab going backwards. It always is moving backwards with his looks, with his slip looks, his high guard, whatever, and then stepping back in with a jab. Now, again, easier said than done, but if a skilled opponent was to use his looks forwards against Inoue, he could definitely time counters on his jabs, because Inoue's closing the distance already for them, okay? He's either moving around to his left or moving forward. He doesn't use backwards touches, frames, or jabs, or at least very, very rarely. He always steps in with his attacks, which closes the distance for a good counterpuncher. Anyway, let's keep moving forwards. He's using his step backs. He sees Cardenas move in. He feints and then comes around with a hook, catching him coming in. Really nice shot to the guard. You can see how much it bothers Cardenas. He's just going to lean over a little bit with this look and then come in with this sort of touch jab here to the gloves. It seems like he's very defensively aware on any counters that Cardenas might throw back. Again, he steps back, uses his high guard, and once he sees the feint, he raises his guard high, uses this great parry here, and then tries to get sideways on and low and smother, but does get caught with this right hook to the body. Then Cardenas is going to do the correct thing. He's going to frame and push Inoue backwards before trying to go for a right hook around the guard. As soon as Inoue feels this frame, he pulls away and shuffles back to get out of distance, okay? Once he sets his feet, he uses a level change feint, which makes Cardenas respectful. He's then going to step in with another feint before changing his levels and coming in with a straight backhand. It's parried by Cardenas, so Inoue just decides to reset out to his left instead. Again, using his great looks backwards, using his high guard, slipping a little bit before coming up with a vertical screw shot. He uses again this inside look before trying to for a lead right hand. He seems to have really good defensive awareness after this lead right hand. That's 2 times now I've seen him throw his lead right hand and then be very aware for counters. You can see him slip this first counter and then pull away and step back at the same time. He really uses his reflexes well here to get away from any counters. Moves around to his left, uses his looks backwards, again uses his high guard and then steps forward with that jab. You can see Cardenas, because he's so square on, every time these jabs land, it just pushes him back and forces him to readjust his base. Here, Cardenas is going to come in with a little bit more offense. You can see Inoue moving around to his left, raising his guard, moving back, and then Cardenas is just going to come in with his 1, which is parried by Inoue. Inoue is then going to step in with his high guard to smother, but as he pivots, gets caught with this right hand, and then this sort of left hook, left uppercut shot from Cardenas sort of pushes him back because Inoue was in a completely square base, which is definitely why 3s are helpful. You can definitely catch someone with the 3rd shot as their base becomes a little bit squared from defensive movements. Inoue moves back, he moves back in straight away and retaliates with his own jab. He then decides to save the jab again and then feint to the body. He's then going to set his feet, look for defense. He uses this high guard here, uses a double parry, trying to get sideways on, maybe smothering a little bit, but stays at range. Now it's just a set target for Cardenas. He comes in with a double jab, right hook to the body, left hook to the body, right hook to the head. Inoue's let him work quite a lot here. He's taken quite a few punches. So very similarly to what Cardenas was doing previously with his counters, Inoue's then, after letting him unload, knows that Cardenas is going to keep on getting greedy. So as you can see, his lead foot, he steps in and boom, catches him with this lovely, lovely right hand as Cardenas just gets way too greedy and comfortable. You can see him roll out here and Cardenas move back quite heavily just because he didn't like that right hand. Now Inoue is going to do some good work. He's going to step forward with his sort of bladed guard here. He's going to feint and then come in with the 2. For my boxers, this could be a nice bladed guard, feint the jab, 2-1 as a great 3 or 4. That would be really nice. He's going to keep stepping forwards with his high guard. He's going to use this touch jab to the gloves and then come straight in with that 2 again. Lovely, lovely work. Capitalize on the space moving forwards, and then he's going to get very happy landing this combination. Again, uses a touch jab to the guard, and then boom, straight in with the 2. You can see it get through the guard piercingly. He's then going to try to use a different setup for the right hand and hook around to the gloves before coming in with a straight right. But you can see Cardenas react by slipping on the inside, looking for a counter, and coming back with his left hook here. This little duck at the end of the right hand might have done him wonders, but it still hits kind of the top of the head. Cardenas is now backed up onto the ropes. Inoue is a little bit tentative, but he decides, no, I'm going to feint my jab and then come in with 1 to the gloves. I'm then going to close the distance for another jab as I step in. The issue is here, he does step into a counter. Again, Cardenas slips on the inside, tries to come back with his own left hook. I think it grazes Inoue even if he puts his block hand up, just because of the jab beforehand closing a lot of distance. Inoue wants to retaliate. He touches around with the hook and tries to come in with the right hand, but Cardenas moves back. Again, stepping in with the jab as an opponent's moving forwards. He sort of leaves it as a frame for a half second, allows him to avoid this right hand counter as he moves back. And then as Cardenas is comfortable with moving forward, Inoue needs to give him something to think about. So he uses his lead hand, touches upstairs, feints to the body, and then makes Cardenas completely shell up. Inoue is again going to come forward with his high guard, step back, and then use some defense here. He blocks and squares up his base, okay? So he's using his blocks here, letting Cardenas get a little bit greedy, and as soon as he sees the opening on the inside, he uses his right shoulder to readjust, and then boom, tries to come up with a double left uppercut here. He steps back to readjust his base. He uses his high guard again, steps in with this jab. Again, it's a counter, and he manages to pull away much safer than he has been doing with his tiny, tiny step back. He's really baiting out the counter and making it really hard for Cardenas to get confidence with it. He sets his feet, steps back as Cardenas moves forward. He's then going to duck low, change his level to get under Cardenas, and then avoid this jab as he pounces in with his left hook to the body and tries to go for a right hand up at the top, and then gets caught with this right hand counter. stalking forward again a bit slowly and patiently, then stepping in with this beautiful jab, feinting a little bit, and that's the end of the round. Really enjoyed that round. That was really good. It's really good to talk about boxers' weaknesses as well, because if you can learn what's limiting a high-level boxer, you're going to get so much better from that, okay? Anyway, I'll see you a lot soon. I'm probably going to do an Inoue amateur fight next. I think I would like to do that. So I'll see you for that one. See you guys. Happy training.